Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Handmade with Ying with Donna. Tonight I have a special interview, and before I do that, today's date is September the 19th, 2022, and it's 7 o'clock p.m. I have with me tonight the idiot quilter, Sean Bland, and his husband, Walter. So before I do my good days to them, I'm going to slip into the chat after I kill my phone because it was on vibrate. And just tell everyone hello right quick. All my moderators, thank you for joining me tonight. If you see any questions in the chat, please feel free to highlight them. You all have the links as well. If Joe hasn't already dropped them, please feel free to drop all links. Hello, Mary, Nancy, Delia. Hello, darling. I thought you were on the road. Mary Jane Ellinger, hello. So Terry, hello. I'm just going to skip over here. The guy who sews, 100 Proof Quilter, Nancy Gus, Mary F., Brenda Foley, and Sobecca, and Peace of Lovin' Quilting Courtney. Welcome everybody, and I would be remiss if I didn't just hop back over for the interview because it's going to be quite lengthy tonight. I've got tons of questions that all of you have submitted tonight, so we're going to get this ball rolling, and I greatly appreciate everyone that's in the chat. If you're running behind and you're catching us on the replay, I thank you for that time as well. So gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you. And just one correction, you slipped. I'm Stephen, not Sean.
Oops. You never know. Sean, are you in there, bud?
I'm thinking about the guy who sews.
Yeah. You never know what I'll say. It's Stephen Bland, the idiot quilter, for all intents purposes. So you joined YouTube back, what, 2013-ish? And then you just kicked off the channel later on?
Yeah, actually, I've been on YouTube since 2006, but the actual channel started in 2013 would be about right. It was just after I had retired.
Oh, cool. So one of the questions that was submitted on your behalf, as well as Walter's, what did you do prior to today in your work life per se?
Do you want to answer first?
Okay, I was the easiest way to call it. I was a software developer. I worked for my last job. I worked for the government and developed software for assessing properties in the local area that we are in.
Oh, that's awesome.
Before that, before working with them, I worked for 9 years for an insurance company called Aetna Canada. You have Aetna in the U.S.
Right.
And, I also developed software for them as well.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That's pretty...
And so what I did was I was a high school English teacher, and I eventually worked my way up to department head. And yeah, I did that for 31 years before I retired, and I retired in 2012.
Wow, you've been retired just a little bit.
Yeah, 10 years, going on 11.
One of the questions that was submitted was, did you retire due to the COVID? Because a lot of teachers was, I don't want these kids, there's not enough, you know.
I was glad I retired way before COVID, because I think COVID might have done me in with what the teachers had to go through. But no, I retired in 2012. It was my time. I could retire. I debated whether I want to retire because Walter wouldn't be retired for about another, what was it, 5 years?
Yeah, I retired in 2017.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And we like to travel, and we have traveled extensively over the years all around the world. But so I could retire earlier, and there were a lot of young teachers that needed jobs. And I did know some teachers who qualified retirement, but they didn't go. Because they didn't know what they wanted to do with their life. I had lots of hobbies at that time, and that was before I got into quilting. So I knew I wasn't going to be bored. So I thought, no, let a young teacher come in and get a job here. I've done my time. It's time to start my next career.
Absolutely. And that's commendable. 31 years. I can't imagine.
That's why there's this color.
Yeah, I know as a mother raising up kids, it's a challenge to keep up with the different teaching techniques that are used.
Yes, it was. But it was
the way I grew up, and the way we had to teach the kids was totally like different. So I don't envy any teacher because you've got to keep up on all of it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was very creative. That's why I went into teaching. I didn't want a mundane 9 to 5 kind of job. I wanted something that challenged my creativity and would allow me to be creative. And teaching certainly did.
Absolutely. I would say, yeah. Um, why are you in? Why are you guys interested in being content creators? Is one of the questions. What made you decide
I wasn't
that
interested.
was for you?
Walter wasn't interested. I started my channel back I was a paper crafter, and I started as a scrapbooker back in around 2002, something like that. And then it just blew up from there over the years. And so for 20 years, I was basically doing a lot of scrapbooking, art journaling, paper crafting, mixed media, all that kind of stuff, and everything. And then I started thinking, well, maybe I should share some of the things. I'd seen other YouTube videos, people were showing what they were making. So I started that. I just did little tutorials, showed them what I made and how I made it. And then I started to get into vlogging. And I kind of liked that. I think my very first vlog was 7 minutes long. I did it on my iPad. And it was just me talking about, well, what am I doing today? Kind of a thing. And it grew from there. And then at one point, this is several years ago now. I'm not sure how long we've been doing Stephen and Walter Live.
No, I don't know. I can't
But
remember.
I said to Walter, I said, why don't you and I try doing a live? And he put up resistance. He didn't want to be in front of the camera. He didn't want to do it. And he said, well, let's just give it a try. So we started in our kitchen and we sat at the counter and we'd have a drink. We'd usually have a cocktail of some sort that Walter would concoct. And we sat there and just talked about the week and plans and things like that. And it blew along from there. And now Walter has groupies and he never misses a Stephen and Walter Live. I mean, he's a major part of it. And I know you have another question later on, so I don't want to veer into that one a little bit, but that's really how I got started. And it was just an extension, basically, of my wanting to learn new things all the time. And the technology to me was new to do this. And it was something that appealed to me. I'm a real techno geek. I love anything that has something to do with technology and electronics. And so I just kind of got into it. And teachers are 75% entertainers, 25% educators. And I guess I lost my class, so I had to find a new class.
And you found a big one, didn't you?
I did. Didn't know how this was going to go at the time.
You're gonna like some of these. So as a roll back the hands of time, your first video.
Yeah.
To your video content today. You said you started it on an iPad?
Yep. The iPad.
It's like apples to oranges. People want to know.
Yep.
What equipment did you start with back in the day versus what equipment do you use today?
I started with my iPad. And that was how I did a lot of my initial videos. And actually up until about, just before I got into quilting, which would have been a couple of years before COVID all got started, I got into quilting about 2017. I was still making all my videos using my iPad. And then I started to go into more using webcams for it. And now what we use is I have a MacBook. I use that. I have about 3 different cameras set up in my sewing room in here. I have a Stream Deck so I can switch between those cameras. And we do it all through the camera. What we're doing right now, this camera that we're using is the one that's built into my MacBook. And I have a fairly new MacBook. I have a MacBook 16 Pro and just bought it actually in May. And
it has an improved camera.
Yeah, it has a really good camera in it. And that's how we do Stephen and Walter Live. It's how I usually do all of my other channels as well. And I do a little bit of editing, but I always tell people I don't edit, and you can tell. I do it on Final Cut Pro, which I'm still learning actually. And so, I went from the iPad, just, shoot and click and shoot kind of a thing. And now I'm a little bit more sophisticated, but I'm not using very high-end equipment for the videos because, this is stuff today from,
Right. It's kind of like how much have you evolved? You
yeah,
know, if you knew then what you know now about equipment, it's like,
yeah,
things change and it's an ever changing industry that we're in.
yes, it is.
And some people use it as a craft or a hobby, and then some of them is like minded, and this is our business. And we want to
Yeah.
see it grow and we want to see it flourish.
Yeah. So this is not a business for us. This is a hobby. Um, it's never been a business. I am monetized. So you know how that works with,
Yeah, you're never going to make $1 million.
No.
not even close.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't do it for that. It's more or less a way for me to see, what things are popular, what things people don't like, what things people do like. I use that as a gauge. And yeah, I mean, it's not a business. I just enjoy doing it. And if it ever came to the point where I know some people will spend, for every hour of video they make, they spend a minimum of 2 hours editing. I'm not one of those people.
Right.
You pretty much get what you see.
I was going to say what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing. There's not a lot of editing.
No,
You know?
I won't do it. Mainly because that would eat into my quilting time.
Well, not only that, you don't get stumped very easily, do you?
No, but that's because of my years of experience in front of kids, right?
Absolute.
I'm used to being in front of an audience, so to speak. So I don't, stumble over my words that much. And if I do, we just go on because every human being stumbles. It's not-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I did.
I do make little excerpts. Some of the things that I cut to as part of my editing, because in advance of my vlog, I will have snippets that I insert into it. And I've made those a few days in advance. But that's just for the convenience of that more than anything. I don't have to switch around equipment if I was doing it all in one take. I can just insert those after I've done the main part of me speaking.
Let me see. I'm trying to look here. There's a couple. Everybody's giving me cute. Sean says the same question to you, Donna, and I honestly don't know what you were asking, love. So you'll have to circle back and tell me, Sean. Hi, Tiffany, and welcome, darling. Glad you're here tonight. As Becca says, and as I sit here and edit my videos, I'm one of those people too. Everybody edits that's in the chat. My 10-minute video takes me about 2 to 3 hours per Sean. Same, so Becca, and everybody enjoys their editing process. I can't say that because I don't edit. I have a husband for that.
Oh, well, you're lucky. You've got it built in.
Absolutely. When the time comes, I'm just going to shoot from the hip. How do you stay motivated as you work? I have it listed as business, but
yeah,
your YouTube channel. Do you have any tips that you'd like to share with other content creators that would help them to stay on track?
Don't spend all your time fussing and fooling around with the equipment and the editing. That is the most frustrating part, I think, in my opinion, of making a YouTube video. People spend way too much time worried about creating something, I think, that's going to be like television production. And what often happens when people do that too much, in my opinion, not everybody, but some, it becomes stiff. It's too polished, I think. And
well, also there's ones that come up and every few seconds their video jumps because you see an edit in there and it becomes distracting.
It kind of becomes a drinking game, actually. Take a drink every time you see a cut and you'll be blasted before the video's over. But no, that's one of my tips. And the other tip is I do some planning. I don't write a script, but I have an outline. And I know every week, and I've made it goes in the same order. If you're a regular viewer, you will know what's coming up next because I have the same order, different content in each section. But that's and I just fly from the seat of my pants, basically, about it. So my idea is that my vlog especially is a very personal thing for me and for my audience. like we said, you get what you see. And we don't script Stephen and Walter live. Far from it. Everybody that watches that knows
I've
that.
seen it. I like it. It's
So
just like y'all sitting there having a chat, you know? There's not a lot of, oh, well, let me look here and see what I'm supposed to say. No, it's straight up.
yeah.
And I like that what you see is what you get. Let me look here. Sean's finally answered. He goes, what equipment did you start with compared to now, Donna? You're going to have to ask Joe because I have staff for that. So he runs the show and I'm just here on the camera. So you'll have to talk to the hubby. Are your quilts functional quilts or are they show quilts? Do you use them for bed covers, bedspreads per se, or do you use them as wall hangings?
Okay, all of those things except for the show quilts. I entered a quilt once in a show when I belonged to a guild. It was just a local guild show, and I had just started quilting, and I was very happy with the quilt. And even though I had unrealistic expectations, I really thought that I would win something. I didn't win a thing. And I think that was a wake-up call because I realized I had put a lot of energy and time and thought for this, and it wasn't fun to do it. It was too stressful. And I thought, no, I'm doing this because I want it to be fun. So yes, I've made wall hangings. I've made quilts for beds. I have a ton of quilts that I need to give away because when I finish a quilt, I'm done with it. It gets folded up, puts on a table with my other quilts where I store them, and I forget all about it. And I've got to start giving more and more of them away because they're going to take over the place. I've made table runners, placemats. I've done some art type quilty kind of things. I call them art. Like I like to experiment sometimes. So yeah, everything except a show quilt. And I'm not interested in doing a show quilt anymore. It's too much stress.
I was going to say, I've entered one and I was blessed that I entered strictly for the per se report card of it. I wanted to know where I needed to improve.
Yeah.
Two of them I had, it was binding issues. As a new quilter, a couple years, I'll take that. If that's all they could find wrong.
Well, that's
the other
pretty darn
one,
good.
the other one, I took first place, and I could have passed out when we rounded the corner. I was pinch me. It's impossible.
Well,
But I was lucky.
You know what it is too? I think that when people first get into quilting, they can be very much intimidated by the ones who win a ribbon, or they think that the only way that anybody's going to recognize you is that you've got to win something. But my feeling, if you like it, you made it. If you're in love with it, it doesn't matter what anybody else says. That's your reward. You
absolutely. Like mine was made from leftover scraps from mask, you know. So that I called my COVID memory quilt. I'm making sure I'm not missing questions in the chat for y'all. So I can streamline ahead now. I just want to make sure. You're going to like this one. Describe your experience creating functional or decorative items by hand, and what various methods have you ever used? And what do you prefer? And that's for both.
Okay. Do you want to answer first? Or are you still thinking and you want me to?
Yeah, you go ahead.
You got to think about it?
Yeah.
That was kind of like a mouthful.
Yeah, that was. So could you just read it to me again? I want to make sure I get it all.
Describe your experience creating functional or decorative objects by hand that either of you use a different variety of methods or materials.
Okay. I would say my experience with that has been disasters. I have probably made more disasters than beautiful pieces right off the bat. That's how I learn. I learn from my mistakes.
We have to.
Yep, you have to with that. I'm not sure what else this question is really asking for. There was something about
I'm kind of reading it the way that I'm reading it is when you're crafting like crafts. Do you ever? And I'm streaming it back to the box that you had done, I believe.
Oh, the boxed album.
I would take it back to there because
Okay.
it's one of my basic interview questions, but I would focus that question off of the box that you had made. Just take it back to there.
Okay. That box was in my, I've had two lives in this. As I mentioned before, I started off as a scrapbooker, as a paper crafter, moved into art journaling, mixed media, and things like that. And I had a room full of supplies, paints and glues and everything like that. And that boxed album was my own creation. And I was really pleased with it, but there were a lot of ones that came before that, the prototypes, if you wish, before I settled on that one, because it was all experimental with that kind of thing. And I kind of grew out of doing all that kind of craft when I discovered quilting. And so I gave away all of my crafting supplies, except maybe just a handful of a few things in case I wanted to do something again in that. And I had a lot of happy friends who were into that kind of crafting. They walked out of this house about a year ago. Was it a year ago I gave it, or 2 years ago now, when they came here, right at my stash. It was like shopping for them. And I said, no, take it. I want it to go to good homes. They want to pay me for it. I said, no, just
I
take
would have
it.
been the same way. I need my space for fabric. Go ahead.
That's what I did. But out of all of that, I'm still not sure where this question is going.
It's kind of a hard question. Like for me, many years ago, I had two sisters that sewed a lot. My mother sewed some, taught my sisters how to sew. When I was a little kid, I used to screw around with my mom's sewing machine type of thing. She'd have me wind bobbins and things like that, right?
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And so when I got out on my own, my sister, when I first bought a house, my sister made me some curtains. And then when I moved in with Stephen, we needed some curtains made, and we needed some chairs covered and things like that. So I borrowed my mother's sewing machine and just made that sort of thing because I was motivated to make curtains that were inexpensive, and we had some old chairs that needed to be recovered and things like that. And I even dabbled in making some Halloween costumes with that sewing machine and things like that. Then I didn't go after that. I didn't sew again for many years. And then I went before I started sewing now. I did a few years where I was doing stained glass, and got into that a little bit. I still have supplies, but I haven't done it for a while. I made a few windows. I made a Tiffany lamp, things like that, and that was kind of nice. It's some I did with a pattern, some was just things out of the top of my head, and it was kind of creative, and I kind of enjoyed doing that. And then Steve got into sewing, and then I sort of fell into the sewing stuff later on. So
I think you're just jumping ahead to another question that's there.
Yeah.
Oh, but that's okay. That's okay. Don't worry about. I gave you the pre-questions. Don't worry about it. It's okay.
Well, one thing I want to say about what Walter does, his style, when he says he made curtains, people are probably thinking he made, cafe rod, little curtains and that. No, he made balloons. This was the 80s, so they were in, right? And he made them all from just looking at pictures in a book. Halloween costumes. We went as Mickey and Minnie Mouse to something once, and I was Minnie Mouse. And I said to him, well, if I'm going as Minnie Mouse, you got to make me a nice dress, he said, that has cap sleeves and an empire waist, which I had no idea what either one of those two things meant. He did. And
I didn't have a pattern.
He didn't have a pattern.
That's awesome. That is really
I just took actually the top of a sweatshirt and deconstructed it, and then used the material to make the top part of the dress. And I just used my imagination and how to do the bottom part.
That is awesome.
It's just a costume. It's not like it's not an everyday thing that you would wear out, right? It's just but
yeah, so he's got that ability to be able to look at something and put it together. I don't have that ability. So we differ on our creative planes in that way.
Right. And when you guys are creating, do you find it relaxing, and has it ever gotten to the point to where it's not relaxing, that it becomes stressful, or you put yourself under the wire, like you're not liking what it's doing and you pick it out and do it again, kind of thing?
Well, you can answer that one because
Yeah, occasionally I run into something that I don't like. I was doing a pair of shorts earlier this year, which still have not finished. But because I didn't like fabric wasn't doing things I wanted it to do.
they were linen.
Yeah, they were linen, and I just have put them aside because I was swearing a little bit too much doing them,
And that
and it wasn't enjoyable. So,
And I usually finish anything that I start, for better or for worse, because that's just my nature to do things, and that is a holdover from when I was in crafting as well. But there were times when something would frustrate me because I wasn't getting the technique down, and I'd have to put it aside, or I just hated it when it was finally finished. I've become much more proficient. Practice makes perfect in my quilt making. And now if I see something, when I first started sewing, I thought, yeah, that's good enough, I won't worry about it. No, now I'm very picky. I will pull it out. I'll get out Jack the Ripper and I will go to town on it and to get it right. Also, I have to do that because he's my critic. I will hold a quilt up to him that's completely done. Within 30 seconds, he will find the one little mistake that I thought nobody would notice, and he'll find it every time.
yeah, I'm
Sean,
a
the
really
guy
big.
who says before the question passes, and I'm sorry to interrupt, is there a
No.
photo of said costumes?
I don't think we have a readily available one.
No, but at some point, can you circle back on your channel and
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
show
I'll make
that?
note of that.
Yeah, Sean, he's going to make note of that, and he'll circle back on that. That's a good question.
Yeah.
I'm trying to just skim. Do both have the same channel? Mona did what would like to know. I think they share this channel, Mona.
Yeah, we do.
And that's why they have a couple different names. You're going to see them under So Chatty, The Idiot Quilter, and Stephen and Walter.
And
So it's a good mix, and you're never going to be disappointed. I know I haven't been.
yeah, we actually, I think that was one of your questions, was why there are so many like seemed like different channels. They're all encompassed under one channel called Bland Designs, and recently I changed the name to Bland Designs and The Idiot Quilter. But I have a vlog that I do on Mondays, and that's more about I do show some things I'm quilting, but that's more of a general discussion. I have a section that's called What's Pissing Me Off, where I have a little rant. And I also I do 3D printing. They're kind of over behind my shoulder, those machines over there.
Oh, okay.
That's another avenue of things I'm interested in. So I started out with just the vlog, and then I got into quilting, and I was putting the quilting in with the vlog, but then I found that there was so much in the quilting that I branched it out and called myself the Idiot Quilter, because I show my mistakes and I show how I have fixed the mistakes or gotten around it, because it was kind of a rebellion against YouTube channels that make quilting look like everything is absolutely perfect. No one makes a mistake. They're very polished. And I'm talking about the Jenny Dones, the Angela Walters, the Donna Jordan of Jordan Fabrics, the big names that are out there, but they don't show their mistakes, and they make mistakes. And I thought
everybody does.
Yeah. So I thought anybody that's entering into this area would be intimidated if they thought their first attempt at something was not absolutely, show worthy perfect. So I call it the Idiot Quilter. And believe me, I do some idiot moves.
That's one of the questions. Where did the channel name stem from?
That's where it came from. I said, well, actually, it probably came from Walter, because
you're an idiot.
Yeah, he usually says that. I go, guess what I just did? And he goes, oh, you're an idiot. So I thought, Idiot Quilter. Because, remember Lucy? Lucy and Desi, I love Lucy. Well, Lucy was always, Ricky, I'm Lucy.
But that's your Walter. Yeah.
Yeah, and Walter's Ricky.
Yeah.
Now Lucy. So that's how that came. And then we started, we started Stephen and Walter Live before I started the Idiot Quilter. And that was, we just I got him into it. I thought, hey, this might be fun to do on a Sunday afternoon, and we were experimenting with the whole live idea, because up to that point I wasn't doing live or anything like that. And he went into it reluctantly. But now, yeah, he's got groupies. So
I would say, do tell, do tell. I have quite the long list on you, young man.
and then we did So Chatty, which was kind of like an extension. It's kind of combining the Idiot Quilter with our lives, though So Chatty isn't live, but it's where I thought we should talk about, since he got into garment sewing and I'm into quilting, we thought we would put the two worlds sorted together and talk about, everything from tools, tips, things that we have discovered, that kind of stuff. And so that's how So Chatty was born. So usually in a week, we put up from Sunday to Sunday, 4 videos. Plus now I'm doing interviews as well. The Idiot Quilter Presents with that. And I know that you have a question later on about that too. So that's how it's grown. And that's why there's all these different sections, but they're all under the umbrella of Bland Designs and the Idiot Quilter. And you might wonder why I called it Bland Designs. Yes, Bland is my last name, but there's a bit of a pun there.
Yeah, I've got that as one of the questions that's coming in.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Bland Designs, my last name's Bland. I've heard it all: flat, boring, monotone, the whole bit. So I just was playing on that feature when I first started doing YouTube videos. So.
Oh, okay. This one is for Walter. This is from the guy who sews. Maybe Walter should be a quilt show or a judge.
I've told him that.
Okay, and then there was another one I don't want to miss. Kelly Cruises and Crafts. My channel, it slipped. My channel is not polished, yet it's an ASME and warts and all. She's letting you know that.
Yeah.
Sean says, I make a lot of mistakes too. That's why So Becca and Donna got me a new jack.
And wore out his Jack the Ripper. Yep.
I love the 100 proof quilters though. She marries her seams and she's got her divorce lawyer.
Yep. Yep.
Thumbs up everyone for Donna. Thank you, Rich. There is something for everyone on Stephen and Walter's channel, and that's absolutely correct. So I'm going to streamline real quick because I'd be remiss if I missed anything. I've already discussed with you privately, but the video's dated. This is cute. And it's a subscriber had mentioned in one of their questions, but I just broke it down really quick. January 20th of 2013, you posted a video. So it's about 9 years ago, called The Album in a Box Journal. And they dearly loved it. By chance, would you be willing to share that pattern on one of your vlogs?
No.
No, it's under wraps, people. It's under wraps.
Actually, it's not a pattern. That was completely done out of the top of my head. And to be honest, I would have to go back, find that video and review it to remember what I did, because I honestly and truly don't remember. And I probably don't even have it anymore, because I actually got rid of a lot of I was making a lot of journals at that point in time, and I gave some of them away. And when I had the big shift to the quilting and that, all of that stuff, well, they were falling apart too and everything like that. I got rid of most of that kind of thing. But I'm going to make a note that I still have a few of those things laying around, and maybe on a Stephen and Walter Live, I'll show some of them. And
I was going to say, do a little show and tell.
Yeah, because I didn't think about them anymore. But
absolutely, but evidently people's not just me, it's others going back through your history.
Don't drive me back into the creative world, but that's behind me.
Amy Demand, hi from Austin, Texas. I've been watching, but only just joining the chat as I finally finished hand sewing the sleeve on the back of my quilt for a show due tomorrow. Can't rush things, and she's winking. Congratulations, Amy, and that's a big accomplishment to get that on. I commend you for even entering. I know it's a lot of stress. So good luck from all of us to you. Let me see that one. Quilt retreats. Can you tell me about these quilt retreats? I'm hearing the buzz in
Okay.
the YouTube land that you have little icebreakers, cocktail parties, Saturday retreats, and whatnot, and they make it sound like they come right into your home and party with you.
Well, they do via Zoom, but they're not in-person ones. I started doing a retreat, on a Zoom retreat, during the beginning of COVID. And I started it simply because of COVID. I wanted to give people an opportunity to come together and just work on whatever they want to work on. And since we couldn't go and do things in person, I thought Zoom was the next best thing. And I had just gotten into Zoom and I was loving it. So I thought I would do that. Now we're about to do, on October the 22nd, I'm running my fall retreat. I'm running them now every year, one in the spring, one in the fall. And actually, later this week, I will be putting up a special YouTube announcement explaining the fall retreat. It is a free retreat. It costs nothing, but people will have to register. And I'm going to explain in that video the procedure. And it's really no harder than you send me an email message with your name and your where you want to be contacted as far as your email, and you're in. And the reason I'm doing that registration is I have a feeling each one it's grown with more people, and my license for Zoom will only handle 100 people. And I have to reserve about 5 spots because I actually use about 3 different computers during the retreat myself, and Walter has to have one. So I'm limiting it to about 95 people. So if I have people pre-registered, then I guarantee them a spot. And if I get more than that, I'll start a waiting list. And if people decide to drop out and they let me know, then I'll just fill in from the waiting list, sort of on a first come, first serve for the
Right.
waiting list into that. But it's absolutely free. It'll run Saturday, October 22nd. It starts at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, but you don't have to be there at 8 a.m. Because I know people out in the West Coast, that would be very early for you. Like,
They would not
I,
like you very much.
no. And in reverse, I do get some people from overseas, not a lot. Most of mine are from North America, of course, because of the time difference. But again, they don't have to be, they can come in later or whatever. And you can come and go as you please, too. I mean, if you can't spend the whole day, that's fine. No big deal. We also have show and share, and that'll be in the invitation that I send out to people. I have a mailing list. I will send out a personalized email for the people on my mailing list, giving them all the details, besides the one that I'll put up, which will have the same information on the YouTube channel. If you want to be part of the mailing list, go to one of my videos. You will find my email address right in the show notes. It's easy. It's my name, Stephen Bland, all one word, all lowercase. Don't forget the N, not Steve Bland, because it will go, but not to me.
We're
And
going to drop your link in the description
okay,
box when we're finished, and
yeah,
I'll make sure your email, if that's all right, we'll add that in as well.
yep, that's fine. And that's how it works. There are prizes. I do have draws for prizes as well. And I have 3 guest speakers. I have Chris O'Neill from Sew the Distance. I have Lynn Reinhard from Cotton Art Studio, and I have Adam from Adam Sews. And they're each going to give a little 45-minute presentation about, and the information about what those presentations will be about will come out. I'm just finalizing that right now. And so that happens during the day as well. We have a show and share. People can send me a picture of a favorite creation. It doesn't matter if it's a quilt, if it's an art journal, whatever, if it's creative, because this is open not to just quilters, to anybody who wants to come and do whatever they want to do on that day. So I'll be showing that. And I do a spotlight, or like I like to call it, victim spotlight, where I pick somebody from random throughout the day and say, okay, what are you working on right now? Talk to me. And we do
That's
all that.
good.
And on the Friday night, people are invited to come onto a Zoom. There'll be a link for that. And we have a little, what I call an icebreaker cocktail party. And for a couple of hours, it'll start at 7 p.m. the Friday night. So that would be October the 21st, Eastern Standard Time. And we just get together, we chat. I encourage people to bring something along to show if they wish. We might play a game or two, and you bring your favorite beverage, whatever that is. And we just chat. And it's just a way for people, because I get people from all over, just to make them feel a little bit more comfortable with the people they're going to be working with during the retreat. So that's how it all works. And as I said, details are coming out shortly.
any of your info, I'm on your mailing list, but I'll go ahead and purge out on my end as well at times.
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Natalie, hello, sweetheart. And Janet Johnson, honey, get some rest. I'm sorry I missed you coming in. Let me see. I want to make sure we've already talked about your 3 different links. It's all one channel, everybody. It's one channel. So you can just type in the Idiot Quilter and there's different segments. So if you didn't understand what they're saying, he's got his lineup. Mondays is one event, Sundays is another, and midweek, right?
Yeah, and Tuesdays, the Idiot Quilter comes out. Friday's So Chatty. And also on Tuesdays, usually if I've done an interview the week before, that'll come out then too.
All right. And let me see. As of today, I don't know if you ever look at your subscriber count, but it was 7,360. And you've made 1,484 videos as of today. Do you ever keep track of that?
I do. I look at it occasionally just to see how things are going. There was for the longest time, I was getting, if I thought I was lucky if I got 100 views on a video. Now my average is in around 500 or 600. And that's all because, and I know this is a question that's coming up, so I won't say too much about it until then. That has all to do with one interview that I did.
Yep. Let me see. All of that's a grand total of over 11 years span being a content creator, and that's to be commended. That's a lot of video time.
Haven't got the little plaque yet from YouTube, though.
No, you're a bit away from there.
Yeah,
like, I don't know, like so many thousands. But someday it's in there.
Yeah.
So let me see. I'm going to skip ahead. Walter, on the gentleman clothing, what do you specialize in making, and what do you prefer to make? Is there a special thing that you like to make?
I've only been sewing garments for a couple of years. So it's sort of like as needed basis because they're making them for myself and for Stephen.
We're wearing 2 of his creations.
That's what I was going to ask.
I like making short sleeve shirts because they're a little easier. I have made short sleeve and long sleeve shirts. And the idea originally was I kind of wanted to learn how to make a shirt because buying off the rack shirts they're hard to find in our size because
we're full-figured boys.
We're a little bit bigger, and a lot of stuff nowadays is slim fit, so that doesn't work for us. And I also find that the patterns are really boring that you get. Like, I mean, I'm not usually super wild with colors, although I have to admit when I've been sewing, I've been getting a little bit more relaxed with what wild colors I'll do. But if you buy them off the rack, it's always stripes or shirt or checks. And everybody used to say, you're always wearing checks.
Well, my kid used to tell me that, my school kids.
Yeah, that's what they used to say to me at work too. So that was an interest of just doing that. And I have made some shorts. I have made a couple of pairs of long pants.
Jackets.
I've made, I did a jeans jacket. I did, I was taking a class through another instructor, and he's a friend of ours. And he's like one step ahead of everybody else as far as sewing ability. And during COVID, he started doing classes using Zoom, and it was a way to stay connected with the sewing group I was in, and it was a way for us to all do a project together. And so somebody would pick a project and we'd sew that whole project together. So in it, like, I've got a full-length winter type coat that's fully lined and everything else. And he was really great at saying, well, if you can sew a shirt, you can sew one of these as well. So that was a big motivation for me to doing stuff. Now, I haven't made another one, but I have sort of tend to do a lot of shirts because that's what we need to wear. So that's basically what I do.
Now, do you use patterns, Walter, or do you design your own?
No, I use patterns. I use, in some cases, I've modified the pattern slightly, but the shirts that we're wearing today are called the Gosling, and it's
Gosling.
Gosling, and it is a brand called So Def. It's SEWDEF, and actually that's from a magazine. There's a magazine called that.
Oh, okay.
It is actually a separate pattern that you can buy. It's not necessarily in the magazine, and all anybody has to do is just look for the Gosling and men's shirt pattern, and like 5 different places pop up as selling them.
Oh, okay.
And I've got a couple of other pattern manufacturers that I've gone to. Like there's one in Vancouver called Thread Theory. They do a lot of men's patterns. And then there's a lady in I can't remember if it's Denmark or Sweden or something, that does a lot of men's patterns, and she goes by Wardrobe by Me. And all of these patterns are PDF patterns. You can download them, print them out on your printer, stick them all together, cut them out. You can modify the sizes if you need to make them a little skinnier or a little wider, stuff like that.
Oh, that comes in time, I'm guessing, as you're learning.
Yeah.
Modify.
And you've taken a few courses.
Yes, I've taken some courses with a guy that does that specializes in garment making. And it's not just men's garment. He does men's garments, and he also helps people with ladies' garments, like adjusting bust sizes and things like that. And he's Ron Collins. He's a Canadian, but he's been known as a sewing guru. He has a lot of men's Vogue patterns that you can buy in the tissue paper out that you can still buy. And so it was very beneficial. He gives you tips and tricks on how to sew a little better. And that for people that are non-professional sewers. And that was always a great help.
Well, that's good. What kind of sewing machine did you start on back in the day when you were learning, like with your mom, versus what you have today?
Well, when my mom was sewing, she was on a hand crank Singer style, old style machine, and that was bought in the 1940s or so. And then she graduated to a Kenmore, a more modern machine in the 60s. And that's really the basic one that I used a lot, was my mom's old Kenmore to make curtains and costumes and things like that. And then the one that I use right now is Janome 6700P, which actually Stephen bought a few years ago when he first got into quilting. And then he upgraded that machine, upgraded the machine that the 6700 to a different machine. And he gave me the 6700 to use. So
you've got a couple questions, Walter. Shirts, are they beginner friendly or intermediates?
I think depending on, I was a novice when I first did my first shirt, and I could do it, but I did it through an instructor, so that helped. And it came out pretty good. But the one thing with making men's shirts is that there are a lot of different pieces that go together. So it might be intimidating for somebody just starting out sewing.
The next question is still for Walter. It says, is there a tip or a trick for... Wait a minute. I want to word this right. It's from Rich. Walter, is there a trick in sewing the sleeves or collars on?
Not really. With the collars, it's pretty straightforward. There isn't really any real trick to doing them. Sleeves are a little bit finicky because you're sewing a rounded edge onto a straight, and you have to what they call ease the sleeves in. Now there's a trick that I have been using lately is I'll run the sleeves through the machine, the top part of the sleeve that I have to sew in through the machine, and I'll hold a ruler behind the foot when I'm doing it and not have any thread or anything like that in the needle. And the fabric bunches up behind the foot and causes the top to wrinkle, right? And then when you do that, it's easier for you to set the sleeve in because it's already wrinkled so that it gives you spaces when you're pinning the sleeve in. And
That's a good trick.
that really helps you sew the sleeve in without any problems.
And he has another trick too. He sometimes sews a sleeve to the collar.
Oh,
I think we've all done
I did that by accident. One day I was really cursing and swearing, and I got the sleeve in the hole. And then when I opened it up, the sleeve was on the collar.
I said to Walter, I love this. Myself. It's great. It's great. I really like it. It's a little tight.
Kelly Cruises says, now that I've looked at Stephen and Walter's channel, I have confirmed that they are fellow Canadians. Hi from Fraser Valley of BC.
Oh, you're only 5,000 kilometers away.
I have a vintage hand crank singer from 1923 and have a Kenmore. That's from So Terry. Does Walter use a serger or does he finish all of his seams? And
my seams, the shirts that I have, usually the original seams on them are called flat felt seams, and they're finicky to put together. So I got lazy and I started doing them with serging them and doing what they call a full flat felt seam, which is serge them and then do another stitch to tack down the serged hem down for my own shirts. If I were to give the shirt to somebody else, I'd probably do a flat felt seam. So
you also have a cover stitch machine.
Yeah, I have a cover stitch machine for finishing the hems and the sleeve hems and stuff like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
We have a lot of machines.
I was going to ask, that's one of the questions coming up. If you had time to estimate that it takes you for a project of a shirt, how long would you say from beginning to end it would take you if you were making a shirt today? Would you be able to finish it today?
If a very long day, because I think the estimated time is about 15 to 17 hours
per shirt.
Per shirt.
And have you ever done any videos on shirt making and fast tracking it is the words they used that's going to show the step-by-steps?
No, I have not.
I've tried to get him to do that, but he won't do it.
I got 6 people that's biting at the bit. They want the video.
That may be something in the future.
Yeah, he's got to build his confidence up for that, but he could do it. Yes, he could.
No doubt.
One thing I did learn how to do was how to match the pockets so that you can't tell where the pocket is.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize it had pockets. Well done.
He had to put pockets on my shirts because I need some place to put my glasses.
Yeah.
Now that one, I don't think I matched.
Did you not match it up?
I don't.
No,
think
you
I
didn't.
No,
that one you did.
That was before I knew how to do that.
He was very proud of that when he did the invisible pocket.
Let me see. Best designer that you've came across on fabric that you just, when you see their designs, you're like, I gotta have the next.
I don't have any.
Do you mean in fabric?
Either one of you in fabric.
A lot of the shirts that I make, like the ones we're wearing, are just done in quilting cotton.
Okay.
Because it's easy to get and they have more patterns to it. You can use another fabrics like poplin or there's something called Belvedere, which is very difficult to get. And those shirts are often just plain colors or they're stripes or they're kind of boring patterns. So I tend not to use those. You're supposed to wash a little better than quilting cotton, but I like the quilting cotton with the variants of patterns that I can get in it.
Okay.
Basically, we shop for fabric, not so much by the designer, more about, oh, that's pretty, I want that. And
Well, and then depending on what I'm doing, like if I'm doing pants, or I often use cotton, stretch cotton twill for that, or I use another type of cotton twill. I've used some linen. So I'm not really looking for a designer of fabric. I'm looking for a quality piece of fabric that will that I can use for it. And a lot of times I have to buy online, and I can't actually see the fabric. I have to go by weight
Right.
and quality of the fabric, and order from a company that produces quality fabric or sells quality fabric.
like two designers that I do like though, Kay Fassett. In fact, that's how I got into quilting, because I didn't know who he was, and I saw
Oh,
some
okay.
fabric and went, "That's pretty." And then I saw a kit, and that was my first quilt. And my other one is, and I don't buy much of his now, but Tim Holtz. And Tim Holtz is a crossover from the crafting world I used to be in, and now he designed all kinds of things, a lot of grunge, a lot of antique. It's got a Victorian style to it,
Yeah.
a bit. And then he's crossed over now into manufacturing fabrics based on his designs and things too. So I do have a lot of his fabric as well. But generally speaking, we'll look at something and we go, "Oh, that's pretty. Let's get some of that."
Absolutely. I think we all gravitate to a certain fabric. Something that's going to catch our eye, whether it be a color, whether it be a pattern, or whatever.
Yeah, true.
What tools per se would one need if they were just getting started into making a shirt? Would there be special tools that they would need?
They would need, if you have a modern machine, you would need a buttonholer to sew your buttons. Now, unless you want, some people put snaps in, and they're a little easier to put in. The other thing you need, besides your fabric, you'll need a stabilizer to stiffen your collars, and if you're making a long sleeve shirt, to stiffen your cuffs, and also to stiffen the button band. I've used, there's two products I use. It's either Pellon SF101 that I'll use for the interfacing, or I'll use, there's another product called Sewer's Dream that I've used for the interfacing for it. But you need that for the stiffness of the collar and the button bands, and long sleeve shirt has to be cuffs.
Oh,
Those are pretty much your only specialty stuff. I do use a product called, as I said in a previous last.
Yeah, we said it on So Chatty this week.
I use a product called Steam-A-Seam in the 1/4 inch width, and it's basically a type of glue. And if you want to sometimes sew certain seams, like when I'm doing a button band, it'll stick down the button band for me so that it's already stuck together when I want to sew the edges of it. So it's already there. I don't have to fight with it. Or if I'm doing a hammer or something like that. And that was one of the tips and tricks that this Ron Collins, when I went to his classes, he uses Steam-A-Seam religiously. He says it's really great for somebody that's a beginner sewer to help you keep your seams straight and stuff like that. So I've been using that a lot.
I like it. I use it in my Mitered-Corners when I'm quilting. When I'm putting that finishing touch on, I just hit my corners with it. It works perfect, and they stay while I'm going all the way around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win.
Yeah.
Let me see where. Do you use different ones or the same fabrics? Best designer. I'm just trying to skim. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything on this one. Do you label your tops?
No, I don't. A lot of people put them in there, but I always hate the tag. I've always hated tags in the back of my shirt.
I get them home and I cut them out. I don't like that rub in the back of my neck.
Maybe if I made a shirt for somebody else, like that, as I was giving it for a gift, I might put one in, but not for myself.
To date, you haven't, have you?
For myself, I'm not going to do it.
I'm skimming the chat. Courtney, that's fine, sweetheart. She says she's sorry she's multitasking and she's working her business. Cross stitches are nice. I'm just skimming. Steven, that is how I buy fabric too, Rich said. I'm easily amused. Let me see. Good tip, Walter, on that. When do you both this? We've already discussed this, but maybe. When did you both decide jointly to start your channel? Your first year, could you give me a walkthrough what it was like when you were like planning it out, or did you just say, I'm gonna go for it and do it?
Well, I had no part in it.
No,
Pled the fifth and said, leave me alone.
I made him do it. When we started doing this together, when we started Stephen and Walter Live, it was an experiment, and I had to basically, I don't know how I got you to it, because when Walter makes up his mind he's not going to do something, wild horses are not going to drag him into it. So I got him into it anyways. I can be persuasive. I just go into teacher mode. You will do this. And we started from there, and he kind of started to like it. And so, yeah, like I said, now he has groupies.
I wasn't comfortable in front of the camera, and I can say now that I am comfortable in front of the camera. So
yeah, you are.
Right.
Yeah. But that's how we came. And then we went on beyond that. I think probably about a year and a half ago, we started doing So Chatty, because he had gotten into more of the sewing. He tried to quilt. I tried to get him into quilting.
That was one of the questions. Has Walter ever quilted?
Actually, what happened was we were going to the quilt store, and I kept saying, well, I really like doing stained glass. I'm not sure if I want to sew and all this other stuff. And the owner of the store, who's very persuasive, said, well, we're having these classes start up. We're doing a stained glass like quilt, right? And I said, oh, I looked at the pattern and I thought, well, I think that's kind of nice. I might like to do that. So with absolutely no experience, and this is all applique, yeah. I go into this class. I've never done a quilt, and it was very intense.
Mm-hmm. And it's beautiful. It turned out.
I don't want this question to get by. This is from Shirley at Around To It. Question for Walter. When making your garments, do you pre-treat your fabrics?
No, I wash them.
Okay.
That's basically what I do. I don't pre-treat them, except for, like I said, with the colors, I'll put interfacing in and things like that.
Absolute. So I knew she was wanting that. You're gonna like this one. Tell me how you set up your space to record now versus the way you used to set it up. Do you leave your equipment just preset? You don't move it or budget?
Pretty much. It's in the same position. As I said, I have 3 cameras. I have the one on the computer we're using right now. I have one that's sort of an overhead camera that'll look down into my workspace, and another one that when I'm doing I run a couple of other things called Craft and Chat on the first Wednesday of every month. And I sometimes do a pop-up sew day, which means you never know until 24 hours before when I'm going to do it. And those are live. And I have a camera that points to where my sewing machine is. And so I can switch them all through my Stream Deck. On occasion, though, I also have an older iPad mounted near my sewing machine, and I'm about to mount my older, we just got new iPhones, so I'm going to take my older iPhone and mount that closer to my sewing machine. So on the rare occasion when I do an actual sewing tutorial, I can get right in there with the camera. So that's basically my studio setup in here. It's all done, and those cameras aren't anything special. They are webcams that I use for all of that. That they're pretty good. One of them is fairly good resolution on it, like high resolution for it. But that's all I use.
And the one has a large focal length.
Yeah, that's the one more. But yeah, that's basically what my setup is. And it's all stationary. We have 2 microphones. You can't see them. They're on either side of the computer here, 2 Yetis that are hooked into the system. And that's it. And if we need to go on location, means into my long arm room, I do have a couple of wireless lavalier microphones that I can wear on here, and there's a device that plugs into my iPhone, and it'll pick up the sound better than the iPhone will. At least the new ones, they'll pick up really well on that. So I do that too. So I'm always playing with the cameras. I'm always trying to find the most ideal setup.
Right. What would you recommend to a new content creator that's getting ready to launch? I've got a couple in the chat per se that's like, I'm teetering. I'm ready to make the plunge, but how do I do this? Camera wise, setup wise, what would you recommend?
You don't really need to, when you're first starting out, you don't need to spend a lot of money buying sophisticated equipment. You can probably use the camera that's already in your computer with that, especially if you have a fairly new computer, like a couple of years old. The cameras in most of them are adequate for this. Check your lighting. We do have a couple of special lights that you can't see that are shining on us right now, which I bought cheap. They cost me for the 2 lights. They're on tripods. They cost me $60 on Amazon. So they're nothing really terribly fancy, but they just give a little bit more light. And something that's going to pick up your sound fairly well. And I went to Yeti microphones. They're a little bit more expensive than some, but when I first got started, I used the microphone in my computer or in my iPad for it. So, if you're not sure this is something you really want to plunge into, you're experimenting, start with what you have. And as you get better at what you're doing or more confident in what you're doing, then maybe spend a little bit more money to upgrade.
And fix the things that aren't working for you. Like if your sound isn't great, then go to a better microphone or something like that. Or if your lighting isn't good, make sure you get some more lighting and things.
Right. I want to circle back to let Walter finish his quilt story.
About the stained glass quilt.
Okay, I got in there. I was a little overwhelmed, but I used my stained glass. I picked out the fabrics based on my stained glass background, and it's like a painting. And it came out really, really well. And
I hated him.
Yeah. Came out really well. He had to help me with the binding, but
that's okay.
Other than that, it came out really good. I was really pleased with myself.
Yeah.
The instructor was a little bit surprised too. So
yeah.
Because I was still trying to figure out how to use the machine. I hadn't used it much at all.
He didn't know what a 1/4-inch seam allowance was when he started. He had no idea what that was.
And he nailed it.
Oh, he did. He nailed it majorly. Yeah.
Oh, I want to make sure. Super chat, but I'll have to go for now. Green Quilts Galore, thank you for stopping in. Walter, this one's for you. Versus your employment life to your life today, are you glad you took retirement, or would you rather be back in the workforce?
No, I was done. I was done doing what I was doing. Actually, I loved it for all the years I did it, because I actually worked in it in that type of industry for 39 years.
Oh, okay.
So I was pretty much finished with it. But
take a fork, give me, I'm done.
Well, not only that, the company I was working with, the management had recently changed, and senior management had recently changed, and things weren't going well there. So I said, no, I'm done. I'm not doing. I can afford to retire. I'm done.
Absolutely.
I did, and I'm still sort of technology oriented, but I was finished doing that sort of work.
Can you tell us some of the different places? You said you're well traveled, but have you lived all over the place, or has it always been Canada?
We've always lived within this local area. I was born actually in the city that we live in right now, and I think I've only briefly lived in a big city for 6 months, Toronto, which is not that far away, and I lived 9 years in Whitby, which is the city right next door to this one.
Which is the city that I basically come from, and I lived there pretty much most of my life. We moved there when I was 11 years old, so that was home. And we used to own a house in Whitby, and we lived in Whitby in our house there for, what was that, 7 years, 8 years we had that house.
Yeah.
And then we moved here to the next city over, which is called Oshawa. Some people may know Oshawa because we used to be famous for GM cars. We were Canada headquarters for GM in Oshawa, very industrial town. In those days, it's changed a lot since then. But we bought the house we're in now 27 years ago. And that's where we've always lived in this area pretty much.
Yeah, like I've always lived pretty much in this area, grew up in here. I have a sister that lives here. My parents immigrated though from the Netherlands in 1954.
Oh, wow.
The only direct family I have here is me and my sister, so in this area. So
And
Wow.
all my family live here too. I don't have a very big family. My parents are gone now, and I just have my sister lives in this area as well with her husband and kids. And I do have a brother, but he lives in Abbotsford, BC.
Oh, wow. Okay. Let me see. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Favorite place you guys have ever traveled to? Do you have a favorite that
Oh,
you just would love to go back?
Oh, yes,
Australia.
Australia. We love Australia. We've been there 3 times, and we're talking about going a 4th time.
Oh, you can't beat that. What did you like about it?
Everything. We love.
I like what they like, the climate, like the people, like
I'd move there. I would, if I was 40 years younger and freer, I would immigrate to Australia. That's how much we love it. We've seen a lot of it because on each trip that we've gone, we've been to all of the major cities in Australia. We had a rented car on one of our trips and drove all over. The only part of Australia we've never really been is right into the outback. And we were supposed to go to Darwin, which is right at the top.
our flight
of
got canceled.
but our flight got, yeah, so we didn't get there. But we were told too that we didn't miss much for that one.
Right.
But yeah, we absolutely love Australia.
Oh, wow.
So Sean will be happy about that.
Sean would fill you in on all the dirt.
Yeah, yeah.
Amy, go feed your family, darling. Thank you for hopping in. Brandy, thanks for joining us, sweetheart. You got to go to work. Catch the rest on the replay, darling. And thank you for joining. If you could change one thing about the way that you started up your YouTube channel, can you tell me what it would be? Is there anything that you would have done different? I know, toughy, huh?
That's a tough question because it has changed so much over the time as well.
All the rules and the startups, everything's always evolving, changing.
Yeah. I don't know if there's anything I would have done really different about it. When I take on something, I usually jump in with both feet, kind of a thing, go big or go home kind of a thing. I do that with everything.
Kind of learn as you go.
Yeah, basically. And I regret some of the things I have said over time on that because I do not have a filter.
Yeah, that was one of the questions.
Yeah, I don't have a filter.
How does Walter make you filter?
I don't make him.
He doesn't. It wouldn't do him any good with it. No, but no, I don't mean to insult people, but I know that there have been things I've said that I think are funny in my head, but I know when other people hear them, they don't find them funny. And I wish I could curb that, but I can't.
Why change?
My brain, it goes out of my mouth. It's always been my problem in everything. Believe me, as a teacher, I used to get into some trouble too. So
I would bet if it comes up, it comes out,
Yeah.
But that's who makes you who you are today.
Yeah. Or the one thing I would recommend to anybody, though, that's starting a YouTube channel is this. Do not let your audience take control of your channel. You have the power of a wonderful key on your keyboard. It is called delete. Don't be afraid to use it because for 99% of the people that'll make comments on your channel are nice. They say nice things. They have legitimate questions that you want to answer, but you will get a troll or two over time who just want to stir the pot. And I don't suffer fools. I just, okay, don't like that, bye-bye. It's my channel. And some people might consider that censorship, and it is, and that's fine. It's my channel.
And you can run it the way you want to. I'm
That's
not
right.
being mean. We've had issues at times periodically, as others have, and it's kind of like setting the trash to the curb. If you don't like the way we're running it, we
Move on.
appreciate you, but I'm not going to put up with the bashing and the lashing. We're here to have a good time.
And don't let that one comment that comes up slice you. Think of all the good ones you've had. You got one, don't let that wreck your day with that. Just, move on past it. It's hard to do that. You have to develop a tough skin as a content creator, because everybody has an opinion and they are not afraid to share it. And like I said, 9 times out of 10, it is great stuff. It's constructive. It's, adds to your channel.
Absolutely. Like so Becca just said, delete the comments and move on about your day, and don't be afraid to block too. I think it's a lesson that we've all learned over the time. Now nobody ever accused me of being nice. Well, Heather, we love you, doll. You are real, 100% hardcore real, and that's why we love you, babe. Your past interviews, your likes and your dislikes.
Okay, I do not have any interviews that I have done that I would say I disliked. There's certain elements of some interviews that bother me, and that's not necessarily a really bad thing. It's like I abhor a vacuum. I don't like long, pregnant pauses in an interview. I don't like dead air.
Right.
I also like people in the interviews to make eye contact, to look at the screen, not over here, down here, and that. And that's a human nature thing. Some people aren't as comfortable as others in front of a camera, and I get that. But I have never had anything that I would say was a really bad interview. If I had a really bad interview, I would never put it up. But the best interview I ever had, and this one kind of put me on the map, and it was totally by accident. Well, not completely by accident, but in my spring retreat this year, I invited Kate from the Last Homely House. If anybody's familiar with her, she's in the UK. She's got a wonderful YouTube channel. She is a quilter, she's a knitter, she's a spinner, wool dyer, and she's just so great. And she has a huge following. And
I never heard of her. I'll have to check her out.
I was looking for speakers, and one of my regular subscribers recommended her to me, and I said, no, she's too big. She's not going to want to come. I can't pay her or anything like that. To come. She won't want to come. He says, no, he had met her. He'd actually met her. And he says, wonderful lady. He says, she's exactly the same in real life as she is on her channel. So he had her email address, her personal email address. So I thought, okay. So I sent her an email, explained who I was, what I was doing, what I would like, expecting her to write back and probably say, oh, thank you so much, but I'm too busy and I can't. No, she sent me back an email almost within the first hour after I sent it, said she would love to do that. Now, she didn't know who I was. She wasn't watching my channel or anything like that. And I was just knocked over. So she came, and she actually stayed for most of the day on the retreat, even though she was like 5 hours ahead of us in time. And I asked her if I could interview her during the retreat and I could record it. And she said, sure. That one now today has over 26,000 views. And that went up just in, I believe it was tail end of March. And from that, suddenly people found me. And everything was growing from there. I mean, I am still small potatoes, okay?
Right,
that's fine.
What does she do?
It's
called Kate's Last Homely House.
Yeah, it's just called The Last Homely House.
Okay.
And she's in England. She lives
England.
She lives someplace in England. I don't know, close to the ocean, I think. I think she's close. She said she's very close to the border of Scotland.
Oh, wow.
It's just she's very hard to describe because she's very eclectic. She does
very down to earth.
Very down to earth. Somebody you would want to go and have lunch with.
Oh, that's darling.
And as I said, she has a great following, like a lot of followers, like 50,000 or something more than that. Maybe last time I looked. She comes on every week. She doesn't do a live. They're all pre-recorded. But she's just talking about what she's making, and she does all kinds. Right now, her latest project is she's got out her raw wool and she's going to spin it. And
Wow.
she does knitting, she does quilts. She's just you will be pulled in. So check her out. Tell her I sent you.
You have to shoot me her contact info, and I'll just try to ring her up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Tell her I sent you.
I would. Just like Joe just dropped the link to her channel, so if anybody wants to give her a look-see. But if you have her email per se, let me know, and
I can send it to you.
yeah, I'd greatly appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for the next interview.
Oh, she'll probably go for it, and she's an excellent interview.
Oh, thank you, doll. Let me see. I'm supposed to ask you what kind of a long arm you have.
Okay.
How long have you had it? Is it computer operated? Do you do edge to edge? The world goes on. People want to know.
Okay. We bought a long arm last October when we got it.
Yeah, I think
believe-
so. I
yeah.
can't remember.
It's an APQS. It's called Lucy. That's the actual name.
I've
of it.
heard the name of it.
Yeah, but we refer to her as Lucy as well. She is 10-foot frame. Walter still says I should have got the 12 because he insists that we could have got it into the room that we have it in. I said, well, no, but he says we can. So whatever, but it doesn't matter. It's a 10-foot. That's what I have. And in May, I got the computerized system for it, the Quilt Path. I just finished taking a 3-day intensive course on how to use it because it's got one heck of a steep learning curve. And I do edge to edge on it. I am moving my way into customization. It's all about the computer. That to me is the modern way to quilt the 21st century. A lot of people say that's cheating. I don't. I say we have the technology, let's use it, because I would not be a good free motion quilter on this. And I absolutely do not regret a penny that we have spent on that system, because it's basically what I've got is $40,000.
Oh, easy.
You know, between that and the computerized system. But I don't regret it at all. I love it. I get all my quilts finished now because one reason I wanted a long arm, I was doing it on my domestic. But you know what it's like.
Lots of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, you know, trying to push that stuff through that throat, you know, your whole body aches.
Yeah, we do what we have to do, the roll, the tuck, the maneuver, the shifts.
Yep, the whole bit. Well, I had a lot of UFOs up to that point, you know, because I was dreading having to do all that. Now that I've got Lucy, I don't have any UFOs whatsoever. They're done.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's what I've got.
Let me see.
We also got that one because we have an APQS dealer close by. So,
You know,
Oh, that makes sense then. Did you test drive a few, or is that just the one?
well, yeah, we didn't really
Well,
test drive that.
I was taking my quilts to this shop. It's called Whirls and Swirls.
I've heard you talk of that one.
Tracy's the owner. She's wonderful. And I took a course with her. You have to take a course with her before she allows you to quilt your own quilts on your rent time.
Oh, okay.
So I did that. And then I was taking my quilts there and I was quilting them myself there. But the problem was I had to schedule that. And I had to make sure that I got the whole quilt finished in like the day that I went in there, because I couldn't really leave it unfinished and come back to it the next day like I can
Right.
now. And there was always somebody coming into the shop hanging over my shoulder and, oh, what are you doing? And why are you doing that? And I'm paying $30 an hour here to use this machine. Okay. I don't want to be rude, but please go away. I'm busy.
Absolutely.
And I also, because I was not that confident.
Right, then you lose your groove of where
Yeah.
you're at.
Yeah.
You get into the groove, you got to keep moving along.
Yeah, so that's what gave me the impetus to say I want my own long arm. And Walter one day said, you know, since we're not doing any traveling, you know, because of COVID, maybe we could get a long arm. And then we started
And then they had a sale. So,
yeah, they had a sale, really good sale on
So
it.
it's kind of like the traveling budget got you the long arm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
Even
Yeah.
up, you know, you get pleasure out of both.
Yep, true.
the quilting community is very generous with their times and talents. Absolutely. Let me see. There was another one. Kate led me to Arnie and Carlos.
Oh, Arn and
Am I
Carlos.
saying that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, Arn and Carlos.
Arn and Carlos. I never heard
They're
of
in
that.
Norway.
Oh,
They're knitters.
really?
Yeah.
That's
They're
cool.
actually designers. They've been designing knitwear for years and years. They do it for a company called Rowan, which I believe is a French company. Very highly regarded, I guess, if you're in the knitting community, especially if you're European. But yeah, I used to watch them quite a bit. I don't keep up with them as much as I used to because I'm not a knitter. But they're kind of interesting to watch.
Right. Sean's wife has enticed me to learn a little bit about knitting. Crocheting I can do, but that knitting, the cast on, cast off, rip it in, rip it out, I
Well, that
about
was
threw it
another
through the
thing.
window.
That was another thing Walter used to do.
My mom always used to knit, and at one point in time, I thought I'd like to try and see how to do this. So I ended up knitting about 4 or 5 sweaters,
Icelandic.
and yeah, I did some complicated stuff.
Yeah, they were gorgeous.
But I don't wear sweaters, and I don't wear sweaters
No.
anymore. So
No, they make
Oh
you.
my.
Sure.
Phew. Let me see. Your subscriber segment. It's kind of like turning the tables, is the way that the question comes through. There's a Teresa Dijon.
Yeah.
Dijon. I've got to try to say that right. Jean or Jane.
Actually, she goes by Jeannie.
Okay. And
Jeannie.
Angela of Rolling Meadows, Chicago.
Yeah.
Each of these ladies seem to bring something different to the interview base. Quilter, sewer, crafter.
Yeah.
How did you get the foresight to shift the tables, per se, from content creators to subscriber segment? And out of each one, do you learn anything?
Okay, I'm not sure what you mean by switching from content creator to subscriber.
Like versus, like, you interview content creators and other people.
Oh, okay, I see what you
And
mean.
now you've shifted. I'm sure it's been out there, but this is the question that was posed today. To also, you'll interview your subscribers now. And it's
Actually-
kind of neat.
I started out, and I still do. I started out with wanting to do interviews with my subscribers because, like Jeannie and Andy, they were some of my very first interviews.
Oh, okay.
Jeannie is a quilter, and they're sisters, and they don't live in the same town. But Jeannie
Wow.
is a quilter. Andy is an artist. She wouldn't call herself an artist, but she's an artist.
yeah,
And she does a lot of art journaling, and she's teaching herself how to sketch. Her stuff is beautiful. Jeannie's stuff is beautiful as well. But they have been long-term subscribers to Stephen and Walter Live. That's how we met them. In fact, we have never actually met them in person. I really wish someday we will, because they are absolutely lovely ladies. They're so intelligent, they're so witty, they're so creative, they're just great. And so that's what gave me the idea. And in fact, I think it was Jeannie. I started with her for an interview about quilting, and Jeannie says, well, what about Andy? And I says, actually, that's a good idea. So that branched it into beyond quilting, into more creators.
Right.
And then I started picking up a few people that also happened to have YouTube channels, because those two ladies did not have YouTube channels. And my mission now is I will interview anybody. They don't have to have a YouTube channel, although many of them do. They'll reach out to me sometimes for an interview, or I'll reach out to them. And I'm not interested in people who everybody knows. Like I would never ever try to approach, not that she'd ever agree to it, but someone like Jenny Doan, Missouri Star Quilt, or somebody like that. I don't want the big names. I want the average content creator or the average subscriber, and to talk about them, because I think it's more real and it's more personable. And I think people like that kind of interview as well. But that's really how it got started. So I think that's what those three people are talking
That's probably
about.
what they have in common.
Yeah, they're creators.
What can you remember, each of you, What's been your most memorable moment on YouTube?
That's a hard question because my memory sucks. Um, I have to go back with the interview with Kate from the last Homely House for me. I think another memorable moment was when Sean, the guy who sews, who turned the tables
He
on
sure
me,
did.
and he interviewed me because up at that point nobody had ever asked to interview me.
Oh,
So I was on the other foot now, so that was kind of interesting. What do you think? What?
I'm not very good at that.
No, I'm sure there's been moments when we've done something that's been not supposed to be funny, but ended up being very funny at our expense, because that happens when you don't edit.
right, but it happens.
But I can't really think of anything else that's memorable.
I mean, we always seem to enjoy ourselves when we do it. So
Right. Do you ever do like a little blooper video at the end of the year, just like fun?
No, we've never tried that.
Well, we've never done a blooper because we never cut anything out. The bloopers are always right there in there. We don't need to take them out because
that's one of the questions. Was they know you edit?
I don't edit much.
Whatever you throw on the floor per se, you need to make a little video clip and just let it roll. They would be dying.
Actually, there wouldn't be anything. Honestly, my editing is, I put up my vlog this morning. It takes me an hour to do it, including probably maybe an hour and a half at the most,
Probably the
including
upload.
editing and the uploading time, all of that. That's how little editing I do. As I said, there are certain segments on my vlog that I've already pre-done, and I insert those. That's my editing, inserting those things that I've done in advance into it and putting on my beginning, putting on my ending.
Probably the only things that were funny is when we used to have the iPad on top of the kitchen counter.
Yeah.
And every once in a while it would fall
Did
over.
it fall over?
Yeah.
That's cute. But I think little giggles like that makes it real.
Yeah.
And before I wrap this up, I'm going to say something in the chat, and then I'll circle back to the final question that I have. If anyone in the chat has any questions for the guys, let me know. Go ahead and pop them in now, because I've kept them quite a bit longer than I intended, but it's been a fun sit and chat with them. Also, if you're not subscribed to their channel, please skip over there. The link's in here. When we're done, not right now, you don't have to leave. Slip over and check them out. If you like their content, subscribe. If you're here with me for the first time and you haven't subscribed, please do. And it lets me know that you like the content that I do share. Give us a thumbs up on both sides of the house. We greatly appreciate it. So, the final question for the night. Whoops, I got one. That is so nice of you, Stephen, for interviewing not the famous people, because we learn a lot from them. That's great. Okay, this is the last and final, unless anybody else pops in for something else. What is it like to be in a, well, I want to word this the way it's said. Sometimes the English doesn't translate.
Mm-hmm.
What is it like to be a man in a dominated woman's world of quilting?
Ooh, that's a good question.
And that's where I'll end it then.
Okay.
But do tell and do talk.
We have run into situations where, because we are men, we have had, it's like reverse sexism, I guess. You walk into a quilt store. Now, this doesn't happen very often, but it has happened on occasion. They see two men walk into a quilt store, and the help is looking around, and they approach you kind of like
skittish
and go, is there something I can help you with?
Sean says he gets it all the time.
Nope, just looking. And they go, oh, okay. And they're looking around. Is your wife or your girlfriend or something? Says, yeah, he's right here. And that throws them off. And then when they see that we know what we're talking about, and that, of course, the whole attitude immediately changes. They get it. I did belong to a quilt guild. I left it. I was the only man amongst 100 women. And
The odds were against you.
yeah, and most of the ladies were very, very nice. But there was a group, and in every group, there's always the group of mean girls or mean guys,
Right.
you know, and they were mean. And I just said no. I'm leaving. So I never went back to that again. But generally speaking, actually the ladies come up to us like we know everything, and they say, I've picked these 2 bolts of fabric. Which one do you think I should have? I don't know. What's your taste?
What are you making?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just immediately go, well, it's not because I'm trying to put them off, but I don't want to make a decision for them. I said, well, I like that one. And you know, go away for kind of a thing.
Right.
But it's like they're looking for a man to reinforce their decision, like they need a man to tell them what's right. No, you don't. You know
Right.
what's right. You
You
go.
know what you want. You just need that clarification or
Yeah, you don't need a
You need
man's
somebody
approval.
else to tell you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
No,
guys, I've kept you pretty late, and I do apologize, but it's been a fun interview with you.
Yeah, we've enjoyed it.
I wanted to thank you for your time tonight, and anytime you want to skip on back, ring me up and I'll bring you back on. It's been fun.
It's been
And I
fun. Thank
greatly
you, Donna, so
appreciate
much.
it.
We really appreciate the time you've spent with us. We've really enjoyed it.
Yes,
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'll be skipping over and watching some of these videos that they've highlighted. So I'm going to go ahead and drop a little couple that you got to go watch. If you're tuning in later, you're watching it on the replay. These are evidently hot ticket items on their channel. So go watch these videos. And if I get a chance, I'll have my husband drop the links to each in the description box below. But the subscribers have dubbed this Turning the Table, but that's not the real name of what they're doing. He interviews little segments of his subscribers, and it's darling. One of them is Teresa DeJong, Jean Eubanks, and Angela Roberts. So check those interviews out. Evidently, they're quite entertaining and delightful and informative. There was one more. I want to make sure that I get that in there. I forgot to ask one. It came through episode 46. Like, you're going to remember this. Asking about sending you guys topics that if you didn't get any more, one of the subscribers said you were going to have, I think they're saying you're going to have to stop so chatty, or was that back in the day?
Oh, we keep trying to figure out what we're going to talk about on the next So Chatty, and it's beginning to get hard as to what topics to have.
Yeah.
Oh, got you. Okay, that's what they're talking about.
So we need topics from people that they, you know, so that we can explore them further, because we don't want too much overlap between the other videos that we do. You know, we don't want to be repeating the same.
Gotta bust it up. So if you guys have ideas for them, please shoot it their way. They're open-minded and they'll give it a look-see. I'm Rich Rudy. Thank you, Stephen and Walter and Donna. It has been a fun, good night, everybody. It's nice chatting with you. And bye all for now. Tell you welcome home, darling. You've been living the dream for the last couple weeks. And you have been missed, my love. And I'll catch up with you on the flip side. So with all of that being said, you guys have a fabulous evening. God bless you. Good night. And thanks for stopping in. If you're catching us on the replay, thank you. And don't forget to slip over to the channel of The Idiot Quilter and have it a look-see. If you like it, subscribe. Thank you guys. Good night. Bye-bye.
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 Thanks.